everyone, welcome back. I'm the Book Guy, and today we're continuing our read-through of the Discworld series. It's been a little while since our last video, so I'm more than ready to continue today. So we're up to book number 9, which is Eric. Well, look, before I talk about this book, let me just remind you of the rules for this video series I'm doing. Rule number 1, Discworld's very episodic, so you can watch these videos in any order. It won't impact your read-through at all. Number 2, there are no spoilers for the book, but number 3, this will be a little bit like a movie trailer where I'm going to tell you a couple of things about the book in order to get you interested in reading it. So that'll be strengths and weaknesses. We got a few weaknesses today. Now, let's talk about this book. A lot of people will consider Eric to be one of the low points in the series, or like it's often the lowest rated or has like, low critical reviews. Honestly, it's not bad. It's just very short. It's about half the length. Most Discworld books are at least 300 pages. This one's just a nice, neat 150. So it's more of a novella than anything else. And because it's short, I think a lot of people get a bit underwhelmed from their reading experiences. I still enjoyed it the first and second time reading it through for this video. I still think it's a worthy addition to the Discworld series, so I would encourage you not to skip it if you can easily get your hands on it. So the story is Eric, but as you can see, he's got Faust on it with a cross out. So that's because this is based on the Faustian legend, which, if you're unfamiliar, Faust is the classic Faust sells his soul to a devil in exchange for blessings, with the stipulation that he will be damned eternally once his blessing period ends. Except the demon tricks him and all of the blessings backfire terribly. That's how the classic tale goes. But let me remind you too, so this is the fourth of the Rincewind novels. Now, Rincewind novels always focus on absurdist humor, wacky situations, and just satire of general storytelling, and this one's no exception. It's also strange doing this at book number 9, where if you read them chronologically, we just did Guards, and the City Watch is the most grounded series, or sub-series within all of Discworld. It's the most realistic and gritty, and so to go back to Rincewind straight after this is a little bit of a whiplash if you do it chronologically. And before we go further, I'll just remind you of the reading order of the Rincewind novels. So they start with The Color of Magic, then Light Fantastic and Sorcery, then today's one, Eric, followed by Interesting Times and The Last Continent. Okay, so what's this book actually about? So Eric, the titular main character, is a demonologist, and he has summoned a demon with the intention of asking it for 3 wishes. Unfortunately for Eric, he happens to summon Rincewind, the wizard, instead of a real demon. Rincewind and his luggage. And Eric tries to get his 3 wishes granted by Rincewind, and yet through typical Rincewind bad luck and incompetence, all 3 of the wishes end up getting messed up in different humorous ways. Unfortunately, this angers the demons because Rincewind is giving them a bad reputation and they want a bit of vengeance.
He's making us look bad!
So like all Discworld books, Eric is a bit of a parody, where it's constantly parodying other stories. In this case, it's retelling a classic folklore legend, a little bit like Weird Sisters did, where that one retold a lot of classic Shakespearean stories. Except this time, instead of the witches, where they normally get the classic retellings, we're going back to Rincewind and doing it with the more absurdist style. This is almost like a buddy cop situation, where Eric is a young teenager, described as being unshaven and unwashed and covered in pimples, and he has very much a teenage boy's perspective on the world. Meanwhile, Rincewind is a bit more cynical and grumpy and has much less idealistic views of the world, and they have a great little back and forth banter during the story.
That's a buddy cop movie I would watch.
But this is a retelling of the Faust legend. Now, the original Faustian legend came from 1583. It was a German tale originally, and it has been retold many times, to the point where there are many contradicting versions of the same story. And even the original 1583 version is considered to be a ripoff of a 13th century version, which isn't like, it's a lost text, So again, there's many different versions of the same story, but the crux of the story is the same. A guy summons a demon, and the demon betrays him with every blessing. Every single good thing the demon gives him betrays him in some way. So the story is meant to be a warning tale to avoid temptation and all things demonic.
Even demons have inner demons.
In the original story, for those nerds who are interested, one of the classic tropes that is present in all of the many versions is that Faust falls in love with a young woman, and through the use of the demon, sort of tricks her into ending up with him, and she has his baby. But because, depending on different versions, in some versions she's married to someone else, and some versions she's underage, or it's a baby out of wedlock. So she goes crazy and kills the baby, and then is either executed or, runs away, sort of thing. Faust's perfect family situation gets ruined and ripped out from underneath him. Sometimes the woman, Gretchen, I should have said her name, sometimes she's saved at the last minute by God, and then pleads with God as an intermissary on Faust's behalf. In some versions, Faust is redeemed at the end, and in others, he does go straight to hell. But Faust has been ripped off many times. There's many different versions. It's a very popular story. There's lots of poems, musicals, there's a lot of black and white films, there's a few silent films from the early 19th century. Even this famous song, Bohemian Rhapsody, is referencing Faust a little bit. One of the common interpretations of that song, I'm not even going to get into how complicated the meaning of that song is. One of the interpretations is that the guy, accidentally kills someone, Mama just killed a man, and then sells his soul to the devil for, redemption. Beelzebub as the devil got to plight for me, or whatever the lyrics are. So we're all pretty familiar with Faust, whether we realize it or not. So this is yet another in a long series of rip-offs.
With 1 million more well on the way.
Although one last thing I'll add is that in the original, the demon serves Faust with unlimited wishes for a period of time, and then after that time expires, then he is sent to hell. But in this story, it's 3 wishes, so it's a little bit more like a djinn than necessarily a demon in servitude, but it's still, the gist of the thing is still the same. So the plot of the story begins with Rincewind being summoned and being placed with all these magical bounds by Eric, and then we have 4 whimsy little set pieces, the enacting of the 3 wishes followed by the demons. These 4 set pieces all satirize popular events, either in history or in stories. So we have the Spanish colonizing of the Aztecs, then the Trojan War, the creation myth, and finally Dante's Inferno. And all of them are satirized in the typical Discworld fashion, where Rincewind sort of bumbling and fumbling, knocks all the bikes over and starts a domino effect and just causes all these troubles, and it's all very amusing. Although that is basically the whole plot of the book, moving from one funny thing to another.
Funny is all I have!
This is one of those books where I think it prioritizes having fun rather than telling a specifically strong plot, although it absolutely is fun. But at the same time, I respect this book for just telling the premise and then finishing it, it does the Faustian legend and then wraps it up. It doesn't add all these random subplots and then drag it out so it's a regular feature-length film. You know how many movies where you're like, that's a 2-hour film that should have been about a 40-minute episode? Yeah, this is not one of them. So while it is lowly rated sometimes by critics, I do appreciate that it just got to the point and then ended, and then moved on to the next book. I think there's something to be said in its favor for that. I think the other struggle point with this plot is just that there's so much randomness to it. There's a lot of, magic spontaneously going from one thing to another, and it feels like they're all just like distantly connected by the theme and not much else. And while it is, again, funny and wacky and definitely enjoyable, it doesn't really feel like a coherent plot. The other thing is Rincewind. I feel like Rincewind's such a double-edged blade when it comes to a protagonist. Like, it's very clever watching this cynical guy who doesn't want to be a hero and just wants to run away from everything. But then it's almost inevitably disappointing when he doesn't really take action or make decisions or do any big decisive thing. I do appreciate the whole, lots of bad luck, lots of incompetence.
Sounds like a winner to me.
But just, as a protagonist, he doesn't really do much to drive the story forward, which always leaves me a little bit, disappointed perhaps. Still, the story does have a great theme of the classic be careful what you wish for. I know that's sort of a cliche and it just sort of like goes in one ear and out the other because we've heard it so many times, but there is a lot of wisdom to the idea that we should be content with what we have, because a lot of Eric's wishes, well, I won't spoil them, they're sort of like idealistic. He's a young boy who thinks the world's going to be neat and tidy and realizes quickly that that's not the case. And so the idea of learning to be happy where we are is a interesting challenge.
I'm happy, just as I am.
I do definitely want to emphasize, I still think this is one of the funniest Discworld books. There's just so much humor concentrated into 150 pages. Obviously, I wouldn't think this is one of the strongest novels from a plot perspective. I think from a humor perspective, it's even maybe not even a bad place to start the series to just see how funny it can be. Like, one of my favorite lines is simply, "There's a door. Where does it go? It stays where it is, I think. Just like dry humor like that all the way through. And this one, what are quantum mechanics? I don't know. People who repair quantums, I suppose. There's also just like witty prose all through the story as well. This is one of the classic Discworld quotes. Like, Discworld fans quote this one all the time, and it originated in this book, which is, people only go to hell if that's where they believe in their deepest heart that they deserve to go, which they won't do if they don't know about it. That explains why it's so important to shoot missionaries on sight. Also, as usual, Discworld has plenty to say on the theme of religion. I like this quote here. Demons have existed on the Discworld for at least as long as the gods, who in many ways they closely resemble. The difference is basically the same as the difference between terrorists and freedom fighters. Yeah, that's the good stuff. Something to watch out for is I find Discworld really requires a lot of active reading because a lot of their jokes are subtle and you almost have to read it once or twice to really catch it. Or maybe they're jokes that sound better out loud than they do read. This is one for example. The Tezuman priests have a sophisticated calendar and advanced horology, quoted Rincewind. Ah, said Eric. Good. No, said Rincewind patiently. It means time measurement. Oh. Still, this is the last we see of Rincewind for some time. This is book 9. We don't see him again until Interesting Times, which is book 17. I think Rincewind dominates the first third of the Discworld novels. There's a lot of Rincewind books, where the second and third of Discworld is, I feel, dominated much more by Witches and City Watch. And I think those are just stronger novels overall, much more plot focused and a bit more balanced between the absurdist humor and satire and the strong plot lines and good character work, where Rincewind's a little bit more all in that category. So I'd encourage you, if you're doing Discworld read-through, don't skip this one, and I hope I've given you the right expectations. It's definitely a lot of fun and continues the absurdist, wacky adventures of Rincewind, but it doesn't really do as much in terms of plot and character. It's a fun adventure. Read it tongue-in-cheek and just have a good time. But I'll leave it there. Coming up next, we're going to continue this one talking about moving pictures, which is one of the standalones. And that's it for me, guys. If you want to support what I do, I have my own books, The Immortal Investigations. I have a shop where you can buy shirts, and I have a Patreon. Any of those will help me out. Feel free to subscribe for more book reviews like this one, and I'll see you next time. Bye!